And joining me for all the chat today is Tom Slater, editor of Spiked Online. Very good morning to you. We're going to get straight into the small boats and the latest abject nonsense on that. But of course, I mean, you've been part of the Talk family for quite some time. We never let you escape, and you'll know obviously of James well. Now the thing is, I suppose you're of a generation, Tom Slater, where you've grown up where. I mean, it's this phrase, the shock jock thing. People call me a shock. I'm like, oh, shock jock. I always say, if you listen to the show, he loved being called shock jock, James Whale. But this is something that was sort of imported from America. But it was really just starting out in America when James Whale started doing it here. But you've kind of grown up with it as the norm, probably. But I suppose for your generation, it's hard to sort of realise what a sort of revolutionary he was in terms of how he changed British broadcasting forever.
No, absolutely. Such a towering figure in broadcasting, as you've been saying. The king of the phone, in bringing that kind of early American style, really kind of rambunctious, argumentative, devil's advocate sometimes kind of style of broadcasting, which is often treated with a kind of sneering attitude sometimes. But not only is it provided a tremendous amount of entertainment for people over the years on James's show as well as many others, but also I think it's important for discourse to have that kind of lively debate, to putting people through their paces. I think my experience with James Whale is very similar to other people, incredibly warm personally, but as soon as the on-air sign goes on, he's gonna really
because actually there are a lot of famous names who are really nice on air and absolutely horrible off air, and we've seen quite a lot of exposés about that, and BBC and ITV. We're not going to name it. Anyway, but he was genuinely, I mean, on air, he could be so rude to people. I mean, just so, and he and I disagreed on lots of issues as well. And he and I would go, hammer and tongs, I can't believe you said that, anyway, see you tomorrow, but you never let it get in the way of personal relationships. But crucially, behind the scenes, he was absolutely lovely to people. I mean, no nonsense, but, didn't suffer fools. But it was lovely to hear a lot of the sort of newer presenters at the station, some younger, some, some the same age, Russell, but talk about how encouraging he's been to them, and people don't forget that.
No, absolutely, it counts for a lot, and the fact that so many of the tributes that were going out on Talk yesterday from people who worked with him on the production side, through to other presenters, that was the message that you got from everyone, which I think says a lot about the man.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to be talking to the wonderful Tony Blackburn in the next time. We're also going to be talking to his great friend Lizzie Cundy a little bit later as well. Look, let's talk about small boats. I can't believe they're going to be quite the same tribute to Keir Starmer and Faye Cooper in the years to come. I'm very surprised. Basically, this migrant deal we heard about from Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron at their summit, which Keir Starmer was basically on his knees in the behind the closed doors going, please give me the deal before you leave after the summit. I need something to show for it. This deal comes into force from today, but the first detention is set to begin by the end of the week. Now, the cunning plan is that we've got a load of migrants coming from France who aren't from France, but we're going to detain, we're told, up to 50 a week in this pilot scheme that runs for 11 months. Don't know why 11 months, but there we are. And then they're going to reassess it, and maybe they upgrade it, maybe drop it, might fall beforehand. But about 50 a week are going to come here, and in return, we're going to take 50 asylum seekers who apply legally from France, who've got not only they've been vetted, criminally vetted and all of that, but they've also got a stronger claim to be here. Apparently that includes sort of knowing someone here, which is great. I know people in loads of different countries, so I just apparently go live anywhere I want. And then everything will be fine and dandy, and that message will get across, and people will stop paying people smugglers to come here. This is patently a load of nonsense, isn't it? If it were every single person who arrived here was detained and then sent back to France, I mean, you could solve this problem in a matter of weeks. I mean, literally it'd be gone. Half the people turning up in France wouldn't bother turning up because they know, well, I'm not going to be able to get to Britain. We know that something like 30 or 40% of people who arrive in Europe, their aim is to get to Britain eventually because we're seen as a soft touch. So if we weren't a soft touch, you were detained and not put in, my local Holiday Inn, as asylum seekers have been put in, then it wouldn't be an issue. However, not only are we going to only return 50, we're going to take another 50 people. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that those 50 people will be the one main family member. And then we get all of their family. Many of these families come from countries where it's quite the norm to have 3, 4, 5, 6 children. Their other half, probably their brothers and sisters, probably their cousins, certainly in the years to come, will be eligible to come because they'll know someone in Britain. And we've also still got, roughly on average, 800 people a week coming on the small boats. And there's nothing to deter them. This is not going to deter people coming on the boat. So we're going to end up with 50 come in of the 800. Those 50 get sent home, so we've got 750. But we're going to get another 50 back, so we're back up to 800, plus all their family members. So we're probably going to be up to about, I don't know, 1,200 plus. I'm not sure this is a good deal for us, Tom.
Why are you so surprised? I mean, the deal-making skills of Keir Starmer are second to none, as we know, and he's managed this time around to produce something. It's not clear as it's anyone's interest, certainly not our own. I mean, this was originally sold as one in, one out, which I think to a lot of people who are concerned about immigration, even standing still doesn't sound like a particularly great proposition. It turns out, because it's only 50 a week that we're looking at, it's more like 17 in, one out. And then you have this question, as you say, about families. Yvette Cooper's been quite quick, the Home Secretary, this morning to say that, you know, however many people come over, the equal number of people will be sent in the other direction. But at the same time, there's how the courts get involved. There's
we've already got the threat of
right
legal
to family
action.
life, legal action, all that kind of thing means that it could easily end up being just as you say. And what's fascinating about this is, like, even if this works perfectly on its own terms, it won't touch the sides, which I think is this government summed up on.
No, this is the thing, because we have announcement after announcement on things, and they always seem, even at the, I mean, you know, I see this announcement under embargo on Sunday for Monday. We discussed it on the show yesterday, extra £100 million for border security. And we all just go, yeah, you know, here we go. And again, well, if you know, you've been in power for a year and we've seen a 49% increase in the number of people coming in the same time period of this year as compared to last year. You might have thought of spending that money sooner and hiring some more border security guards. I can't imagine you just pluck them off the tree and get them starting on Monday as of yesterday. It just seems to me to be, you know, they just, as you say, drop in the ocean stuff. This is about headlines. This is about no, don't worry, we're doing something, and they think we won't notice when nothing really changes, when people are noticing. I mean, there's some amazing stats out about in terms of, you know, we saw the stats last week about the extra, was it 700,000 more people come to this country, and areas like my local council, Camden, we have had a 2% increase purely from immigration to our local population in 1 year. In 1 year, 2% more people. So you know, I mean, you know, that's a huge 1 in 50. You know, that's a huge increase. And these people coming to live in my local neighbourhood in just 1 year. Well, we haven't built that many new homes. We haven't got more parking spaces on the roads because the roads are all, you know, jam-packed. We haven't got more buses. We haven't got more doctor surgeries, more hospitals. We haven't got more schools suddenly propping up. So where are all these people going? And it's no wonder the Office Budget Responsibility, you know, the financial watchdog, has said, you know, immigration is piling unsustainable pressure on public services. And that's the legal migration. People who are supposed to be coming here as an economic benefit. And they're saying we need to be relying on, you know, our own workless people to get their act together. But the cost of the illegal migration, although it's on a smaller scale, is huge and rising exponentially in terms of the cost of these four-star hotels and the long-term benefits these people are on and the legal challenges, you name it.
And it's so fascinating how quickly this debate is moving on as well, because arguments that previously would hear you shouted down as some kind of sinister xenophobe are now being
far right, racist, bigot, yada.
We all remember that all the old tunes are now being said by leading figures at the Office for Budget Responsibility, people who for many years, whenever people would say quite commonsensically and correctly, in a country in which we're not building anything, bringing, you know, hundreds of thousands of people in each year is obviously going to put a strain on housing, is obviously going to put a strain on public services. They would come stroke their chin and say, actually, if you look at my spreadsheet, it doesn't
totally
work. And now saying, no, actually, you were right about that. And also, public opinion is hardening. There was that story in the Times this morning, and writing up a YouGov
I mean,
poll.
the Times, which is pretty pro-migration.
Absolutely, and pointing out about 50% of the population, or almost 50%, want a moratorium on immigration and recent arrivals to be sent back. So this is...
people are done. They're not all far right. They're not all Tommy Robinson.
And what's interesting is you've now got the kind of establishment, the think tankers, the national newspapers are having to respond. Yes, it's a bit partial, it's a bit late in the day. It's a little bit meek in certain quarters, but I think that's telling of how.
I think it's extraordinary to see change, and again, you know, Keir Starmer, although I can't remember because he regretted saying it, regretted not saying it, regretted saying he'd said he'd not said it. But the Island of Strangers remark, difficult to keep up with. He does agree with it this week or not, or whether or not women have a penis this week or not. You never know with Keir Starmer. But yeah, the fact that he even would say those words, I think, was very telling. But certainly on the legal migration, the mass off the scale, you know, there's an extra million here, an extra 700,000 here, an extra 650,000 here, nothing to see here. They think we wouldn't notice for years, and they told us it was an economic benefit. And there are many people, because I have rows with people who write in and call in, and people want, still insisting, no, you're quite wrong. I'm going to make a complaint to Ofcom or an article you write in the Sun. I'm going to make a complaint to IPSO that this is. You cannot say that the majority of migrants who arrive are not an economic benefit to this country when it's patently obvious from the facts that they are not. If mass-scale legal immigration was an economic benefit to a country. We've had it since 1997. We have had flatlined growth for much of that time, certainly since 2010, and it was put on steroids by the Tories in 2010. Instead of taking it down to in the tens of thousands, as David Cameron promised, it actually went up and up and up. And again, Boris Johnson was the worst offender on this and should be out of all prospect of ever returning to public office on that fact alone, among every one of his other sins. And he did it without telling us as well, which is even worse, having told us the exact opposite in public, that we'd be the booming economy of the world if immigration delivered that. It clearly doesn't. And we're supposed to have a points-based system where we're choosing the brightest and the best.
I mean, it's also absolutely clear now that what the immigration lever, the reason it's been pulled so many times by successive governments, is to kind of try and cover up for a lot of economic decay, problems in the labour market, the fact that so many people, including now young people most alarmingly, have just been put out to pasture, not working, sickness benefits, all the rest of it. The fact that you had an economy which never properly recovered from 2008, and therefore you kind of superficially inflate the GDP figures by just bringing more and more people in. Meanwhile, GDP per head, the thing that people actually feel in their own lives, their own living standards, has continued to
But even then, because we often have comparisons like with American states, so we're poorer than I don't know, Arizona or something. Even per head, that is still an average. If you've got we know, the rich, the very very rich, have got a lot richer. The people most of whose wealth is not, it's wealth, not income. Those people have got a lot richer in recent years. That is an extra big lump sum of wealth, right? But the average income of people are poorer. There are very, very few people in this country, apart from the very, very, very top earners, who are quite completely insulated from these things, who since 2010 have not been just getting slowly poorer. The quality of life, what they can buy with the income they've got, what they get in return for it, whether it's housing, whether it's buying okay, some things have gone down in cost, but white goods over the years, might go to a washing machine cheaply, but in terms of your car, your food shop and everything, all that's gone up.
No, and also they've experienced many millions of people real terms pay cuts over the years. Again, since 2008, things not properly recovering. You then look at the cost of accommodation, the cost of housing, the cost of energy, every single area, it's all gone up. And this is something which makes people's frustration with the immigration system and frustration with just the way society is going even more acute. They're paying higher taxes than they have
for worse public services, out of less money.
Meanwhile, they read in the papers over the weekend that more and more asylum seekers are being given free NHS passes. It's these things, you put it together, this is a recipe for social conflict, and hopefully this is the point at which you will actually see a bit more responsibility from this government to try and pull back. But I just think that this Labour Party, kind of any Labour Party, but this one maybe in particular because it's run by human rights lawyers, is kind of constitutionally incapable of dealing with this issue. It will try to come up with little technocratic fixes around the edges like this one in, one out. To
appear to deal with the issue.
But they can't.
No, not only can they not, they can't because they're not, I don't think they're clever enough. I think they're not. But main reason they won't do it is they don't actually believe it's a problem. We discussed this on the show yesterday as well. I don't mean to bang on the same subject, but we've got the same problems today as we had yesterday. They're still here. They genuinely don't really think it's a problem. They might say that they think it's a problem. They might say they're going to do something about it. And then, of course, people worried about this are not racist and bigots. And they don't think that. When they have private conversations, they think we all are. I can assure you of that. I want to hear from you. Give us a call. Britain's one-in, one-out pilot scheme to return boat migrants to France begins this week. Realistically, it's only going to see 50 migrants returned each week. It might be upscaled, it might end up being brilliant, but we're still going to get other people here who I'm not entirely sure we want here. Give us a call. What is your reaction? 0344 499 1000. You can text the word talk and your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at talkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs £1. Standard network rate message. Tell you I definitely don't want here, and I don't care how much people think I'm a terrible human being, is these 300 Gazan children who apparently are very sick and need healthcare, and they're going to be given healthcare here on the NHS. We've already had a handful who've come through and had private healthcare. But this is going to be on the NHS because, of course, we have no waiting list on the NHS for any British children. Absolutely not. Everything's absolutely fine for them. No child is dying from waiting for cancer treatment or getting to see a GP. Of course they're not. So, of course, we're going to treat children from abroad. They will be a priority. Yvette Cooper, yesterday on radio today, was asked, do you expect any of these 300 children to stay? And she said yes, they do expect some will stay. The answer, of course, is they will all stay, pretty much, and their families, and then they will bring more of their families in, and then we have a whole load of people British people, I don't believe, have asked and wanted to have come to this country. I'm all for these children getting treatment. It's awful. Any child. I don't care what your nationality is. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your skin colour is. It's utterly irrelevant to me. We want every child in the world to be treated. But we're not bringing children in from Yemen and Sudan. I don't know why. Well, those kids apparently don't matter. But if we want those children treated, why don't we give them money, raise it privately? I'm sure there are plenty of people who march down the streets on a Saturday in London who wear their little cafes and everything. Don't buy a new cafe. Put that money towards medical treatment for children from Gaza, and we can send them to Qatar. Qatar's very big on Hamas. They care very strongly about the Palestinian people. So why don't we pay for Qatar in their fabulous first-class, state-of-the-art hospitals, treat those children there, rather than the NHS taking them on? It seems to me to be a very, very humane and reasonable solution, no?
Absolutely, but as we all know, those countries that might claim to care about the Palestinians, they really don't. They've shown that time and time again. Not only if you're Qatar in terms of supporting Hamas, the terror group that is oppressing the Palestinians of Gaza, but also the neighbouring states, which again like to posture against Israel or the West. But when it comes to, for instance, Egypt potentially opening its border to, say, women and children so that they can escape the conflict, in the way that happens in any other conflict, it's not going to happen. So it really shines a light on the hypocrisy of many of the players in all of this. And as you say, legitimate concerns that even something as simple or seemingly as circumspect as just offering treatment to Gazan children, because of our insane human rights laws and so on, because we had those employment tribunal cases recently where you saw, again, attempts at claims being made despite the fact there is no Gazan refugee route that has been sketched out, that has democratic...
Trying to use the Ukrainian route.
Exactly. All of this, it's making these things even more fraught than they would have been previously.
Absolutely. There's so much more I want to talk about, including all-out war in Gaza. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But also, my favourite story of the day, a zoo asking for people's unwanted pets to be given to them so they can feed them to captive predators. I mean, there's some dogs in my neighbourhood. Bit barky late at night. I wouldn't have a problem with them being fed to the local lion at London Zoo. I'm just throwing that out. We're going to talk about that a bit later. I want to hear from you. There are calls coming in thick and fast.